Hello, welcome to yoga.tv. I'm here with Greg and Vanessa, and today's class is a small or short 30-minute class that focuses all around the wall. So you will need your mat to be pulled up to the wall as we've done here. So you'll see the short edge of the mat is up against the wall. Also, what will be useful in this practice today is to have some sort of extra cushioning, whether that's a blanket or a thick towel, or even just a few thin towels or a thin blanket will be useful as well. And we'll use that for cushioning right off the bat. And then lastly, if you have a bolster or a brick or a foam block, as we have here, that will be useful as well. And if you don't have either of those, something that I do with clients that don't have props, that I haven't brought any, you can take the back cushions off of your couch and use those as well, or any type of thick pillow that you have, just something that's going to hold you up but also create some extra cushion. So before we go anywhere, just pull yourself up against the wall. Bring your hands onto your lap or your thighs and close your eyes for a few moments. I find it useful and really necessary to just take a few moments in whatever class we're doing to settle ourselves. And so you can do that first physically by relaxing the tops of your shoulders, letting go of any clenching through your belly or your buttocks. Even relaxing the muscles of your legs until you feel not only your physical body descend heavier into the floor, but also that the energetic body settle. So you feel more grounded, potentially more stable. Even though I describe those aspects of ourself, your physical body and your energetic body, as separate, please know that I don't see them as separate, and hopefully you don't as well, that they're all these different layers to ourselves. But just because they're different doesn't mean they're separate. So that means when we're practicing, we want to be thoughtful with the way in which we're positioning our body, knowing that it will impact all the layers of ourselves. This particular practice will not only stretch some of the deep crevices of the body, as the wall can be quite useful as a deep prop to get us into those shapes, but also an opportunity to just settle us. This practice is fantastic if you've been sitting for long periods of time, whether that's at a desk or on a train or a plane or an automobile. It's also something nice to do in the evening if you're preparing for bed. Before we begin, take a long, slow breath into your nose and a long, slow breath out. Do that again. Inhale deeply and exhale deeply. Last time in the seated position. And slowly on your next inhale, you can just flutter your eyes open and adjust back to the light of the room. And from here, shift your weight forward onto your hands and knees. And the first pose we'll do is actually to stretch the fronts of your thighs at the wall. So I'm going to ask Greg and Vanessa to grab their blankets for extra cushion. You can just move the bricks to the side and take the blankets and place them right up against the baseboards. So if you don't have blankets at home, like I mentioned, you can use a towel. Actually just place it flat on the floor. Or you can take the back edge of your mat and fold it up a number of times. Now come back onto your hands and knees here. And then come back so that your right knee, lift your right foot up towards the ceiling and bring your right knee down towards the baseboards there. Yeah, exactly. Clear, you'll point your toes up. If you find that you have a sensitive foot or the toenails themselves, you can even place blankets there. I've heard that in California they actually have pedicure mats. How posh. I'm sorry if you're in California, I'm jealous. All right, step your left foot forward, please, now. They make this look really easy, but if you were struggling to get your foot forward, no, you're not alone. That's a really hard transition. Now here, in my opinion, is the money move. Bring your bum back towards your heel, and then keep your bum back as you now lift your chest up like Greg just did and place your hands up on your front thigh. Yes, wonderful. Now push into your front foot and use that to help you bring your chest closer towards the wall or upper back towards the wall. Nice. Now we're looking for a stretch in the front of your back thigh and the quadriceps there and the hip flexors there. Would you say you're both feeling that? Oh, yes. So now the work is breathing, just breathing into the shape and letting the power of the shape take us further into ourselves. So that's sort of interesting. It's not about taking ourselves deep into the shape. It's actually allowing the shape to take us deep into ourselves. And I find the more that I sit with that idea, the further depth I create in my own practice. And it's not always a physical depth. Try to relax your shoulders. If you're anything like me, you need constant reminders to relax your jaw and soften your eyes. Last full breath in this position. And then nice and slowly bring your hands to the floor first. And then often there's not always a pretty way to get out of these shapes, so that's fine. You can shift your weight forward and bring your left knee to the ground and then walk your right knee off the wall. Yeah, if you want a little movement from side to side, you can wag the hips or you can let out a big sigh. Expression is nice. All right, but we do have to do the other side. Yes, so let's do the other side. You can walk yourself back and now place your left knee against the baseboard with your left toes pointing up. Just take a moment to settle yourself in a comfortable position there and then step your right foot forward. So it's absolutely fine if you need to walk your hands way to the left to be able to swing that right foot forward. Once you've done this, move your butt back towards the wall and then climb yourself up. Sit up nice and tall so your hands are on your front thigh. Yes, and really we're just going enough. We're going enough into the shape that we're feeling a sensation. And again, we're looking for a sensation or a stretch across the front of your left thigh in the hip flexor group and the quadriceps there. So know that if you're feeling that in any depth or degree of the shape, that you're doing the pose. Try to relax the tops of your shoulders, relax the sides of your throat. Nice, long, slow breaths. A few more. At the bottom of your exhale, nice and slowly hinge forward and bring your hands to the floor. Then shift your weight forward so your bum comes away from the wall and then step your right foot back and then slide your left knee back. Once again, from tabletop position, you can just wag the hips from side to side. Let out a nice big sigh. Good job. Now from here, we'll move into legs up the wall. And I find the hardest part about getting your legs up the wall is getting your butt to the wall. So if you come into fetal position, I'll move out of the way a little bit, but come to turn into fetal position. So you can turn on either side that you would like. Yeah, and from fetal position on the side of your mat, bring your bum right to the wall. Yeah, and you'll see that they've moved the blankets out of the way, so you can do the same thing at home if you'd like. Once you have your bum at the wall, then roll over onto your back and stretch your legs straight up the wall. And if you find, just like these two have, that you're sort of slightly off the mat, then you just wiggle yourself back on the mat. Fantastic. Now for a moment, don't do anything. Once you've settled into the shape and you're here at the wall, just let your body relax. Turn your palms to face up, which will naturally create an external rotation of your upper arm bones, which will help open up your chest. Let your body sort of almost climatize or adjust to the shape itself. This particular position in Sanskrit is called Viparita Karani, in English, legs up the wall, is really nourishing for the nervous system. It helps create an equilibrium, a natural balancing and calming of the body, the energetic body. It's also a shape that gives the heart a break, for the heart doesn't have to pump the blood from the legs back up into the heart and then back down. Just gravity is assisting here, is it bringing the blood down the legs into the heart. Also, the lymphatic system doesn't have a natural pump like the heart does for the blood. So in this position, it's actually a great way to stimulate the immune system and help drain and move the lymphatic system. Just to name a few of the wonderful benefits of these types of inversions, the legs up. From this position, we'll continue to stretch into the deeper layers of the hips. So slide your right ankle on top of your left upper thigh, please. Dorsiflex your foot, so that just means pull all 5 of your right toes towards your right knee. And that will create muscular tone to the lower leg and keep your knee safe, so the stretch is in the outer hip. Once you've done this, you're welcome to just stay here, especially if you're already feeling a stretch on the outer edge of your hip. But for most of us, we need a little more depth. So you can bend your left knee to any degree so that your your right shin comes closer towards your chest. As your right shin comes closer towards your chest, energetically widen your right knee away from your chest, so move your knee towards the wall, and get really heavy in your buttocks. So really, you'll find, in my experience of using the wall in this shape, is that you don't actually have to bend the knee very much to get that great stretch. Come back into those long, slow, steady breaths. I also find it appropriate to talk about sort of the way in which we gauge further depth. If we were to look at yoga and see that we were more than the shapes we were creating, and really that this practice was about creating balance, creating harmony, you could say, in all the different layers of ourselves, then the way we are intended to gauge, the way in which we're intended to make decisions isn't based on performance, isn't based on the external shape we're creating, it's rather on the internal experience. And so using this as an opportunity with your eyes closed potentially, or just in a more softer gaze, to let go of what you think you should look like in a pose and rather come into the place of feeling, to what is the most appropriate sensation to settle in. And often in a shape like this, where we're holding it a bit longer, is if you come to a place where you're just enough, you're just feeling enough of a sensation, that over time the body will soften and you'll be able to find further depth during the length of time we hold the shape. On your next inhale, please first just stretch your left leg straight up the wall, so your heel's against the floor, and then you can slide your right leg up the left and then back onto the wall. Pause here and let out a big exhale, or just take a breath in between sides. Keeping your right leg straight against the wall, bend your left knee and place your left ankle on your upper right thigh. Dorsiflex your left, all 5 toes pulled towards your knee. And then to any degree, start to bend your right knee and plant your right foot a little further on the wall. And again, to any degree, remembering to make those decisions based on harmony and balance, based on those appropriate sensations. Once you have that angle, that's just enough for you today. Widen your left knee away from your chest. So energetically press it towards the wall and get exceptionally heavy through the hips as they descend towards the floor. Then you're already there in the depth of the shape. So come back into the breath and utilize the breath as that beautiful resource. About 4 to 5 more breaths here. Last full breath. And slowly stretch your right leg straight up the wall, please. You can slide your left leg up your right leg until both legs are against the wall, and then let out a nice exhale. Take a breath here. And not only do we want to create enough space in the shape that we can experience the sensations and feel where we are in the body or in the current of life, but also after the shapes. Just those moments to check in with ourselves and see where we are and see how we feel. Especially if you're doing this at the end of a long day or at the end of a long travel, it's nice to check in with yourself. From this position, open your legs out wide to either side into a straddle position. Yeah, maybe they're gonna fight for space here. Or maybe they're just gonna be friends and hold ankles. That's kind of nice. So you want to get to a place just naturally where your body has some resistance. So you'll feel it. Your body will come down, your legs will come down to that appropriate spot and they'll go, yeah, that's good enough, yeah. And just like I mentioned before, once you find that first place where you're feeling an adequate stretch, adequate and appropriate sensations in the inner edges of the legs, then you just settle there. And once you hold there, you'll find, just like these guys are doing, that they'll be able to angle or deepen a little bit from there. Do you feel slightly imbalanced there with your left leg a little lower than your right, Vanessa? A little. I wonder if, so Greg, if you bring your left leg back up for a second and then let Vanessa come down and then you go on top of hers. Yes, good. It's like perfect partnership. Does that feel better? Yeah. How about you, Greg? Is that okay? Great. So really in this particular shape, we're letting gravity do the work. And in this particular shape, using the wall and using gravity as we are in this angle, it's actually about time versus effort. So we don't need to actively engage the muscles. We don't need to worry too much about contracting in that way. For the shape will take form the longer we hold. The stretch and balancing actions we're looking for will come with the time we're holding the shape. So your job then is to just direct your attention in a way that would serve you in this shape, whether that's coming back and noticing the breath. Another option is to come and direct the breath so that it's longer and deeper, more regular. Another option that's useful and relevant for Hatha Yoga is bringing your attention to a particular mantra. Maybe it's hum, sa as you breathe. Maybe it's simple, like, I am enough. Or repeating peace, peace, peace. There are really endless options on where we can place our attention. I just encourage you to bring it to a positive place, rather negative or overwhelming place, like getting caught up or over-identifying with the thoughts. I find after a while in this shape that you can let go of any clenching in the buttocks a little further. Maybe you're clenching those inner groins a bit, sort of resisting the natural opening that's occurring. Just as much as you can, let go, soften. A few more breaths here. Last full breath. Now you can hold the outer edges of your legs and help your legs back together, or you can energetically pull them together. Not one's better than the other. Sometimes the longer you've held your legs there, the harder it is to bring your legs back together. Oh yes, hello. Pause for a moment in between. If you need to shake the legs, you can sort of bend and straighten the legs against the wall. So really we're working in releasing the muscles surrounding the pelvis and work the big muscle groups in the legs here in these types of shapes. So we started with the front thighs and hip flexors. We moved into the outer leg and the side of the glutes, the buttocks. And then we just work the inner groins and adductors. And then every time we come back with the legs straight up, we come back to the hamstrings, to the backs of the legs. So really by the end of this practice, we've often released the muscles in the legs, which will create more movement in the pelvis, thus more movement in the spine. The next shape we'll do from here, again, is great for the hips themselves, and it's actually fantastic for moving fluid in the digestive system, and often great for elimination if that's something you're excited about. I'm very excited about that all the time. I know. All right, take your feet a little bit wider, so slightly wider than your hips. Then start to bend your knees and walk your feet down the wall. We're actually coming into a squat at the wall. So you're welcome to reach up with your hands and grab the fronts of your shins, or even manipulate the feet out a little bit wider as you bring your heels down as close towards your buttocks as you can. So actually take your feet a little wider, Greg, a little less apart. Yeah, so think like squat. Yeah, and Vanessa, you can actually go a little wider with your feet. Yes, great. Now once you get to that place, again, where you're feeling a significant resistance in the hips, or where your body just says, that's enough, then that's good enough. That's where we stay. And you're welcome to continue to hold on the fronts of the legs, or you can let your arms go by your side. Or even another option I've been into a lot recently is taking your arms over your head and actually creating a diamond-like shape just by letting your hands relax, your elbows bent, your shoulders let go by the side. And we'll hold here. So again, we're mimicking the shape of squat pose. And I find this quite useful for all body types and all people of different experiences and different shapes and different levels, you could say. As we are being supported by the wall, so you have a nice vertical spine and you're staying upright, you could say, because the wall is supporting you, or the floor is supporting you there. And then you're able to negotiate your feet often down a little narrower, a little deeper than you would say from a seated position or a standing upright squat variation. So I find this is quite useful if you find a standing squat or an upright squat challenging. Come back to the breath, and we'll hold here for about 5 to 6 more breaths. Again, the majority of this class is done where the shapes, it's about the time we hold in the shapes versus the effort we put forth. About 3 more deep breaths here. Last one, make it your deepest one. Big inhale and big exhale. Then on your next inhale, please stretch your legs once again straight up the wall. At any time, letting out a big sigh. It's often an audible way to remind your body that you're safe and that you can soften a little further. Now, this next position will increase the angle of our legs, which will increase the flow of blood down the legs back into the heart. Again, increasing the benefits that I mentioned to earlier. It will also create a little stimulation in the upper back, neck, and shoulder area, for we'll go into a modified shoulder stand. So start by creating what we infamously call little robot arms, where you bend at your elbows and come to a 90-degree angle there. Bring your elbows in towards your waistline and point your fingers up towards the ceiling, just like Greg there is, Vanessa. Bring your elbows in. There you go. Wonderful. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Now bend your knees enough that you can bring the soles of your feet against the wall and just pause there. Press the back of your head down, press your shoulders down, press the tips of your elbows down. Keeping those 3 contacts heavy into the floor. Now lift your hips off the floor and take your hands to your lower back. Good. Keeping your feet at the wall, you can walk them just a few inches higher, so maybe the knees are at 90 degrees in a tabletop-like position. But rock just very gently from side to side and pull your shoulder blades in closer together underneath you. So your elbows come in closer towards each other, and often you're able to get a better grip with your hands on your lower back. Well done. Continuously push the back of your head down into the ground so that your chin is moving away from your chest. And now if you at home happen to have a ponytail that's sort of sticking in the way here and tucking your chin tighter to your chest, please come back down, take your ponytail out, and enter back into the shape. Good. Keeping the back of your head rooted into the ground, please stretch your legs straight, but keep your heels at the wall. Yeah, pull your toes away from the wall so your feet are dorsiflexed. Exactly. And then use the wall as leverage. Push your heels into the wall to lift your hips further away from the wall. And again, keep the back of your head extended. Now this is a modified variation of shoulder stand. We're going to keep our feet at the wall. And one of the reasons why I quite like this is that you're not putting too much stress or compression in the neck and the shoulder area. So I find it a little more accessible for those who potentially have any neck or shoulder issues. I also like using the wall to help create a nice vertical line in the spine. As long as you can keep the heels at the wall, you're also welcome to take your hands to the floor behind you. Even interlace the fingers if you would like. You don't have to do any of those, however. It's sometimes nice to try, especially if you find that you're feeling a little fidgety. Good, keep pressing your heels against the wall. So there's a little bit more effort here than we have in the other postures. Hold and breathe. And remember, at any time, if you've taken your hands away from the wall or away from your hips, that you can always bring the hands back, that you're never stuck. About 3 more big breaths. All done. Now bring your hands back to your lower back, please. And slowly lower yourself down. And as you lower yourself down, bring your hips down to the floor. So you can bend your knees at any time, or if Vanessa's chosen to do straight legs, that's fine as well. Then you're going to reach for your block or your brick or your bolster if you have one at home, and lift your hips up enough that you can slide the brick underneath your lower back. So it's actually going to be a little higher than your sacrum. So you can actually turn it flat, turn it on its flat angle. Yeah. And the reason why I want you to bring the block up a little higher towards your lower back is I want the buttocks, the flesh of your buttocks, to fall off the back edge of your block towards the wall. And it should actually feel quite nice, so that when you re-stretch your legs straight, you may find that it will tilt the pelvis in a way that lets you settle more easily at the wall. Would you say yes or no to that? Yeah? Okay, great. You can do the same thing with the bolster underneath your lower back, or of course a block. At any time, if you're feeling that the shape is taking you into inappropriate sensation, meaning the sensations are sharp or stabbing or radiating, often that's the body's indicator that you need to back off and come out of that shape. So know that if the block is creating those sensations in your lower back, just come off the block. We're going to hold here for a few breaths. Again, just let your shoulders relax. If you'd like to come back with the arms over your head, you can do that as well. Just hold here and breathe. Where we place our attention will bring our energy to that spot. In traditional Chinese medicine, often they refer to energy as qi. In Indian Ayurvedic medicine, they talk about energy as prana. Those two descriptions of energy are somewhat different, and I'll describe that in another time. But where we place our energy or our attention will move that energy, will move that qi to that spot. But we can also, wherever we're feeling the most energetic pull, often when we're feeling the most sensation, that will also pull our attention to that spot. So know, just by defining that, you can draw your attention to certain areas of your body or to certain focal points to bring the energy into that space. Or you can allow for your attention to move towards the sensation in a way that would help maybe expand that sensation, like directing your breath into the area of your body that you feel the most tension. Just a few more breaths here. Now, bend your knees enough that you can plant your feet on the wall, just enough that you can lift your hips up, move the block to the side, and bring your hips back down. Now move your block up a little bit higher towards your shoulders so you have some space to the sides of your mat. You can even just take the block right over your head if you'd like. There you go. Now, stretch your left leg straight up against the wall and bend your right knee into your chest. Good. Now you're going to take both of your legs all the way over to the left side. So walk your straight left leg and your bent right knee all the way over to the left side. Then hold on to your right knee with your left hand and reopen your right arm to the side. Now you can walk your right foot all the way down onto the baseboards, or even if possible down onto your left leg. And then just hold your knee in place, either with that hand as you press down to your right shoulder and twist in the opposite direction. So it's just a different way of doing a reclined twist, again, using the wall. If for any reason a straight left leg is inappropriate for you, know that you can always bend your left knee and bring both knees together in a two-knee twist. Often in this position, I'll focus on not only the twist itself, but actually pressing your left leg as straight as you can, pushing your hamstring against the wall. And sometimes that just changes the dynamic of the stretch, which can benefit us in different ways for different reasons. We'll hold here again for 3 to 4 breaths. Notice if your upper body has tightened or clenched, and as best as you can, try to soften that, try to let it go. Last full breath. And first, just look back towards the ceiling or the sky and then crawl your legs back up the wall. Meet almost in our home base here, you could say, with both legs straight up. And pause, maybe for an expressive breath. And of course, we do the same thing, but on the other side. So now bend your left knee in towards your chest. And then as one unit, take both legs over to the right side. So you sort of negotiate the legs down in that direction. I'll move your water bottle out of the way there, Greg. Good. And then as you come down, just find the stretch. So hold on to your left knee with your right hand and take your left arm out to the side. Great. Final refinement, if your neck will allow, is to look over your left side. As a loving reminder, and especially if you did on the other side, if you've chosen to bend both knees and take a two-knee twist on the other side, then please do the same variation on this side, bending both knees. And the same thing, if you happen to like the variation of pushing your hamstring on that right side into the wall, then please do that now. And we'll hold here as we have the rest and breathe deeply, those big, beautiful breaths. Two more. Look back to the ceiling if you're gazing to the left, and slowly walk your legs up the wall back to center, back to our home base, Viparita Karani, your legs up the wall. So this will be our final shape as we move through our wall sequence here. Encourage you at this time just to take a few moments and check in with yourself like you did in the beginning of class. Just noticing how you feel. Acknowledge any shifts or changes, even the most subtle of shifts. Notice them, recognize them. Often doing a wall practice like this, you'll feel grounded and more steady or calmer at the end of the sequence. Notice if that's true to you. I would encourage you to stay with your legs up the wall for a good 2 to 3 minutes here. If for any reason this is upsetting you or you're just kind of done, you can also pull away from the wall and lay flat in a more traditional Shavasana or corpse pose. But it is important just to let the body release in a more symmetrical shape. I'll leave you here to rest as long as you need to against the wall. As always, thank you so much for chiming in with us here at yoga.tv. Thank you to Greg and Vanessa for participating and being such wonderful students. Thank you to Shibui Yoga for letting us use your space. Namaste.